We had Microsoft. So every quarter in the US, public companies need to do filings, so 10K filings with the SEC. It is always interesting because these large companies, they have to really be like quite obvious and honest with their numbers, and it's not really a lot of spin that they're allowed to put in it. And just what I wanted to call out is, yes, they have had a lot of increase. So it's like 11% increase in the digital content. So these are things like Xbox Live, Game Pass, but 11% year on year, given how big the numbers have been with coronavirus, is probably realistically flat compared to what you'd expect the numbers to be. And then you actually saw their whole division. So this is everyone under Phil Spencer. It only went up by 2%. So, if you're kind of doing the maths and you go, well, wait a second, the Xbox content and services has gone up 11%. Their hardware numbers have just plummeted. Now, I get it's like, the final year, but anecdotally, you just hear from people in retail, along with the news that we had last week around the Series X stopping production, that essentially those Series X, especially in America, they're just not selling and they're still in stores. And now with, the next console coming out, they might not be bought up, those consoles, or like they might just go on deep discount. So yeah, it's just like Microsoft's in a really tough spot at the moment. And, more than PlayStation, I feel like it's just so critical for them to land the launch of the Xbox Series X. And one thing I wanted to ask you and just bring it up in this topic, we didn't go through this last time, but are you planning to get it at launch, the Series X?
So I mentioned that it will really depend on what games are, I guess, out in the initial launch period. So we know, obviously, a lot of the ones. None of those are going to make me buy it immediately. But if it turns out that, let's say they announce something like a Mass Effect remaster trilogy and it's going to be on the new console, then maybe, like that's an example of something that might get me there. Of course, you got big titles I'm really looking forward to, like Elden Ring. That's not going to be out anywhere near launch. So it's interesting. I've got an Xbox One X. I'm very happy with how that's serving me at the moment for whatever I need it to do, and I've got a pretty beefy PC to play any games that that kind of I guess that I'm not going to be able to play on the Xbox One X. So I feel like I'm in a good position at the moment, but hey, you never know. It could turn out that I just take the plunge anyway. But I think there would have to be some serious killer titles for me to make that move straight away.
And it's interesting because you mean exclusive titles, right?
Not so much. So when I say
Okay.
well, that's the thing. So
I mean exclusive on next gen. I'll frame it like that. So exclusive to PS5 and Xbox Series X, not also released on Xbox One. Or what are your thoughts on that?
No, so I'm weird because depending on the games they asked, I will want to play both versions. So
yeah, which you did with Breath of the Wild, and you hated both versions.
God.
Amazingly.
Hate is
hate. Let's get into that some other
time.
time. We could spend hours on that.
No, but I will generally. I'm achievement whore. I'm in it for the Chiefs.
We'll speak about this very shortly as well. But yeah, go on.
So I will usually, depending on how they handle that stuff, if they're separate lists, and I'll actually want to play it on both. So it's just, it is what it is. I can't say it's not. So
okay. I gotta jump in because this achievement thing hasn't come up so far, and it will just keep coming up. I'm guaranteeing you. But you are so crazy on achievements. It actually drove me, as one of your closer friends, to spend 5 hours in a Hong Kong video game arcade where it's like multiple levels, chatting to every single merchant there and digging through Xbox 360 games. Xbox 360. This is not that long ago. This was like last year, right? And talking to people who don't speak English and speak Cantonese, and I only know a little bit of Cantonese. And it wasn't until the very last merchant that I actually found this weird, obscure game. And the whole reason why, it's not that you don't have this game. How many copies of this game that I'm talking about do you have?
I own 2 other versions of this game.
You have 2 versions. What's the game called again?
It's called... Oh, God. Oh, man.
Can you even remember the name?
You put me on the spot. Oh my god, what is the game? I
Oh my
can't
god.
remember.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, I can't. Wait, let me.
This makes me laugh so
I gotta
hard
find
because
the game. I gotta find it.
you were so like I knew how much it meant to you. That's the only reason why I did it. I knew that it
It's a
was
From
like
Software game, so I'll just look up Dark Souls and I'll go from there.
so. I'll give the listeners the context. No, like you have so many achievements. Like from an Australian perspective, you're like number one or in the top list around RPG achievements for Xbox.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I knew that you needed this game because crazy achievement people like you, what they do is they play the same game, and sometimes I've seen they play it simultaneously, the same game on multiple consoles.
Yeah, I do that
so
as
that
well.
from different regions. Oh, okay, there you go. You are one of those even more insane people on multiple consoles, so that they can get more achievement score from the same game. So this weird game came out in, I think it's Hong Kong, Singapore, and maybe Taiwan region. It was a very small region, and you just can't order it. It doesn't exist anywhere really, and it seemed to be going for like $100,
So,
$200 because it's so hard to
The
get.
reason I was put on the spot, but also because it's got two names. So it's Enchanted Arms, and
The Enchanted
and
Arms.
it's
That's
also
it.
called
Yeah.
EM Enchant Arm as well.
Yes.
So
Now,
yeah, and it's made by From Software, so who make Dark Souls.
it's even better that you didn't remember the name
Uh,
because I spent 5 hours in this arcade trying to find this game for
Any
you.
other-
And then when I actually found,
I was just saying, any other
When I
day
fa-
I would have been fine, but like I wasn't expecting it to come up, and you threw me.
so I found this game, and I was like, wow, I found this game. It probably like I reckon if you sold it on eBay and you listed it for like $200, I think someone would buy it eventually. Because people like you, it's just like, oh my god, I need this. This is like the last game to get to knock this thing off. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
so,
I
like-
would have bought it for 200 easily. So
Yeah, you even said that. I think you said you're happy to go up to $250 Australian, right? So that's about 180 US dollars. You were happy to spend, right? And I was there, and I love negotiating. And so I was going through, and I finally found it, and I was trying not to react. I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I'm like, oh. And then I asked the vendor, I was like, oh, these are all crap games. Like, you know, how much are these? These are all just like rubbish here. And they were like, oh, you know, it's like 30 Hong Kong dollars or something, which is like 5 Australian dollars. And I'm like, oh, really? I wasn't even happy with that. I'm like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, I'll get this game. You know, it's got a good cover. I don't know, it looks crap though. So, because I did not want them to cotton on that I was like super into, like, oh my god, I can't believe. And the fact that it was like the last vendor, it was amazing.
Oh.
I wish I had like a video about it. It was like so crazy because it went through all the levels. I got to the top level, and then I finally found it. I was like, wow, that's so crazy. So,
and when I asked you, I'm like, this is a ridiculous request, but hey, I'll just throw it out there. And man, you delivered. You delivered in spades.
No, and I know how much it means to you and how much you kind of invest in this hobby, so that's all fine. And I think that's a good birthday present or whatever I gave it to you as. But
the best part is you can't even complete the game. All the achievements in it.
That's true. I remember you telling me that you can't even get like 1,000 points from it or whatever.
Out of the 3
'cause it's
versions
broken.
of the game, it's the only one that has glitched achievements. So
That's awesome. It's so great. And then, yeah, just talking about achievements. So